Yes, yes, yes. My name is Brandon Keith Avery, and this is just my opinion. Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Just My Opinion for my Dune Part 2 movie review. And if this is your first time finding me, and you happen to like this video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Dune Part 2 is here, baby, so please get your tickets as fast as you can, especially if you want to see this in IMAX. I personally did not see this film in IMAX, unfortunately, but I do plan on going back to the theater and checking it out because I think that this entire film was shot with IMAX cameras or IMAX certified, and after seeing it, I can say that IMAX is possibly the best way that you can see this film, and I'm excited to see it again for a second time. Now, this film is being directed by Mr. Denis Villeneuve. He did part 1, and of course, he is doing part 2. And if we just scroll down and look at his filmography, he also did Blade Runner 2049. I wasn't in love with that film, but thought it was decent. Arrival, I did like, and also Sicario and Prisoners. If you've seen all of these other films as well, please let me know what you thought down in the comment section below. But my expectations for this film were pretty high. I do have the first one right here on Blu-ray 4K. Thanks, little brother. He got this for me this past Christmas. And I did see this in theaters as well. And I won't say that this is a bad film. This is a great film. It's a good film. And everyone that says that they like it, that they love it, I am not going to argue with you. But to be honest with you, it just did not resonate with me like everybody else did. Everyone is just screaming at the top of the lungs, oh my gosh, Dune, it's just so amazing. It's one of the best films I've ever seen. It's this, it's that. I thought it was good. I had fun with it, but I just wasn't like over the moon, over the roof with it. But we'll see how I felt with part 2. However, with all of the reactions that came out for part 2, for early screenings, the world premiere, etc., everyone was running out of the theaters just saying how amazing this film was and how it blows the first film out of the water. Coming from some trusted sources that I know of my own, that I was like, okay, if they're saying this, I may believe them. So I was going into this movie with super high expectations. And I will say the first time around, my expectations weren't met necessarily because people were saying that this film, this book series, the original film, influenced Star Wars. And I am a Star Wars fan, casual, not diehard, but I really didn't feel like it lived up to that hype. But again, let's see what part 2 had to deliver. So before I get into all the nitty gritty, before I talk about all my likes and dislikes, let me tell you exactly what Dune Part 2 is all about. Paul Atreides unites with Shani and the Fremen while on a warpath of revenge against the conspirators who destroyed his family. Facing a choice between the love of his life and the fate of the known universe, he endeavors to prevent a terrible future only he can foresee. The first thing that I want to say is the director Denis Villeneuve upgraded everything from the first film to the second film across the board. Everything is better. The story is better. The score is better. The action, the strategies, the character growth, everything is better in this film than the first one. And I really did like the first one, so that means that I absolutely love the second one. What also really did impress me was when I saw the first film in theaters, I understood the gist of it, but after that, I really couldn't remember all of the specifics. So prior to me seeing part 2, I wanted to do a rewatch of part 1, and that's exactly what I did. However, I only got to the first hour of this first film doing my rewatch, and I felt that I was possibly going in blind, missing the second hour and a half before I saw part 2. But that doesn't matter. As soon as part 2 started, which is a direct continuation from part 1, I was able to easily follow every story point that this film had to deliver. Even if you haven't seen the first film at all, I want to go as far as to saying that it's not necessary. Now, you will have a better appreciation, of course, if you do see the first film, part 1, before part 2. But I think if you go into part 2 without without seeing part one, you'll just be fine and able to understand everything with no problem. So that's just a great testament on how well this film is written and directed by everyone that is involved. Now, I want to talk about a little nitpick that I had at the very beginning in the first act of this film, and it is a long one. This comes in at around 2 hours and 45 minutes. While I was interested in seeing everything that was developing on screen, following the characters and seeing themselves trying to pick themselves back up by the bootstraps from their world falling apart from part one, there was a brief moment where I was like, okay, I'm liking what I'm seeing, but when is something big going to happen? I'm starting to get a little bored. 5 or 10 seconds after I said that, guys, I got everything that I wanted from a cinematic masterpiece blockbuster and more. And that goes to the fighting, and not just how well choreographed it was, but the strategy behind it to kill your enemy and survive. This was a desert battle, and a lot of this film does happen in the desert. But the way that these characters would position themselves to come out on top, you can really tell that all of the creators in this film pulled out all of the notes and took intricate detail to iron all this out to perfection. I was very, very impressed and blown away of how these opposing forces were trying to take advantage of each other without getting killed themselves. It was something that I've never seen before, because there's so much new technology with spaceships and vehicles and transportation devices within this film, and that's just another breath of fresh air on top of all the compliments that I'm giving it on the action and the strategy. It's the devices that they're using, trying to extract spice to fulfill their wealth banks. Paul Atreides in this film teamed up with Shani, who has been played by Zendaya. They are part of the Fremen, and my goodness gracious, I love these characters. I love their entire group. The Fremen are basically like sand or desert ninjas with all of the best fighting skills in the land. I love the way that they was able to hide in plain sight in the middle of daylight under the sand. It was a dream come true if you like fighting, if you like ninjas, if you like that type of thing. And going back to the way they strategize with the fighting and using all of their certain weapons, swords, bazookas, all of that was brilliant. I also love how they did not waste any energy or wasted movement at all. Every step that they took had meaning to it, and I really mean that they don't waste energy. They don't waste anything. They don't even waste their tears. If somebody is crying, someone will come and scoop the tear off their face and drink it like, hey, we cannot waste water. And I just thought that was really amazing. I'm like, man, they are stretching out these resources to the T, and I'm loving all of it. But going back to the strategy and the fighting in the technology, it's not just on the side of the Fremen, it's also on the Harkonnen group of people as well. They had these black robotic ninja suits. That's the best way that I can describe it. And the way that they would kind of float up in the air and whatever technology they was using too, we know that there are some giant sandworms to where if you step the wrong way, they will take you out. But the way they tried to surpass that was really impressive. So I was blown away on both sides, whether there was the good side, the bad side, the protagonist, or the antagonist. Everybody has something to contribute as far as dopeness when this film is concerned. And I love Paul Atreides, played by Timothée Chalamet, fantastic actor. His character growth in this film from part one to part two was amazing. I have never seen someone's confidence jump so much from the bottom of the ground to the sky up in the clouds. In this film, he was the textbook definition of believing in yourself, and I can do whatever I say I can do. And everything in this film was so freaking huge. It was so freaking big on a different scale, comparing that even to Star Wars or even better. And with Star Wars, when they say that Dune influenced Star Wars has a lot of bright, vivid colors, while Dune is very bland and dull, but not in a bad way. It's the exact polar opposite, and I really do appreciate that, and seeing how both franchises are similar, but also the exact opposite. I love that, and it just gives you another reason to go to the theater to see something that you've never seen before when you think you've seen everything. Like, all of the structures in this film seemed like it took them hundreds of years to build, like this was the pyramids or something like that. And I'm just asking questions like, how did you guys put all of this together? Of course, this is in the future and technology does advance, but I'm still blown away even though you have that expectation. I also like the villain in this film as well. Even though he does come across a bit generic, he's also very, very effective in his simplicity. just a big blob of a human being. And I'm not talking about the Emperor, I'm talking about the Baron, played by Stellan Skarsgård. Very great job at being a disgusting figure that you don't even want to look at, because if you do, you feel like you're going to vomit. Very, very compelling villain. Disgusting. Oh my goodness gracious. I don't even want to touch this person with my finger. And I think that this character influenced Jabba the Hutt, and I can kind of see in Star Wars, and I can kind of see the comparisons there as well. But great villain. And he appeared back up in this part 2 at the perfect time when they're capping off everything in the first act in this part 2. The performances across the board were fantastic. I believed everyone. Everyone was convincing, whether they was happy, they were sad, or anywhere in between. And oh my goodness, Hans Zimmer really did his thing composing the music for this film. One of the best in the game, one of the best in Hollywood. And I don't even remember the score that much from the first film, but it stood out like its own character in the second. I can definitely see myself downloading this and jamming it in my car, just all over the place, because it is that epic. Something else that really impressed me was the prophecies and/or the religious aspect throughout this film. Religion is a very sensitive topic, possibly one of the most sensitive topics on top of sex in the world that we live today. So a lot of times you have to walk on eggshells when discussing it, because you don't want to offend a certain group of people. But the way that it was handled in this film was phenomenal, because some religions, some faiths, some beliefs are very unorthodox, and I'm not trying to throw shade at anyone, but some are believed by the masses. Some people get made fun of for their beliefs, some people are praised. In this film, there was a great balance of the two, and you had different beliefs of religion within the same group of the Fremen, and I love how all of that was balanced out. Some groups believe in the prophecy that a Messiah is going to save them, while others are laughing at this, saying this is a bunch of crap. What are you doing? If you think like this, this is ridiculous. On both accounts, it showed respect and made fun of these religious beliefs without being disrespectful. And again, I just thought that that was the perfect balance between the two, so that you're not offending anyone. And I was smiling ear to ear when all the dialogue was going back and forth. So the writing team, a great job there. That was one of the best parts of the movie for me. This was a great story. It had great politics. It had me at the edge of my seat. And I love the characters of going after revenge from everything that happened to them in the first film. Guys, this is all around fantastic. I love all the action sequences, whether it was a hand-to-hand fight, weapons, or one armada going against the other, being shot low on the ground or high in the sky with all the effects. This is what we want to experience when we're going to the movie. If the movie ticket for one person was $30, I would still happily pay for that, because this film is worth it. I love dang near everything about this movie. This was a cinematic masterpiece, dream come true, and seriously, I cannot wait to buy it again. The only thing so far that disappoints me about this whole franchise is I have the Blu-ray 4K right here, and the IMAX version is not on this. What is the point if you're not going to put the IMAX version on the disc so consumers can watch it at home, Warner Brothers? Please let me know. Y'all allowed Christopher Nolan to do it with his films. Why not everything else? It's not on the Blu-ray. It's not on the 4K disc. It's not digital. It's not anywhere. The only way you can see it is if you pay for it in theaters, and there's not even that many IMAX theaters around the country with the proper aspect ratio. So that's very confusing. So please do not do that with part 2. That would be a sin. That would be a huge, huge disappointment. My only gripe, my only complaint about Dune Part 2 is that in the last sequence, in the last act of this film, there was a battle sequence to where I thought ended too quickly. It ended too abruptly. I was saying to myself, oh my gosh, that was amazing, but I wish it lasted much longer. I thought that one side accomplished their goal too easily, and that was a bummer. Other than that, I love this film. I have zero complaints. I will praise this movie from now until the end of time, on top of the mountain to the high heavens. I'll go ahead and give my rating for this film at the very end of this video, guys. But for now, that is just my opinion. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy this video, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up, helping me reach my next milestone of 50,000 subscribers. And guys, I'm almost there. I only need about 400 or 500 subscribers to go. But guys, if I had to rate Dune 2 out of a 1 out of 10, I would easily give this film a 9.75 out of 10, a 9.75 out of 10. But guys, again, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in. And before you go, don't forget that my name is Brandon Keith Avery, and that's just my opinion. Peace.